Simon, perhaps you could give us a recap of some of the things we've been talking about so far.
Yes, we've been talking about the challenges of cybersecurity in the digital transformation era. We've talked through the principles of the solution of Secure by Design from NTT. We've also looked at the process under which you would engage either a new solution that needs to be secure by design or a transformation of an existing solution to make it secure by design.
And what are we going to be covering this session?
We're going to be talking about the solution itself.
First of all, let's look at that solution. How do you strike the balance between prevention and response?
It is a fine balance. Organizations have something called a CSIRT, and that's CSIRT. With that, that's a computer security incident response team. Their job is to look at all of the emerging threats that are out there in the world, bring those threats and provide readiness for those threats in the event of a disaster, for example. And I'll talk about disaster in a minute. There is then the protection side. Obviously, bringing security throughout the business process, bringing in the right technology control domains, bringing in the right procedures of people and services that they have around the environment provides the right protection. Getting a fine balance is important because you can't protect 100%. In the event of a disaster, and whether that's a breach or some sort of business continuity issue which affects the business, you want to be able to respond to that. Some organizations build those CSIRTs themselves. A lot of organizations also look at companies like NTT to have an incident response team, what they sometimes refer to as red team, to be able to come in and provide them the right response they need to in the event of a breach. It is a fine balance. You can't get away from the fact you have to build the protections and you have to have the ability to respond in the event of a disaster.
How does all of this help organizations?
This all helps organizations because now cybersecurity is no longer a technology component or an issue for a customer or for an organization. It is now really at the business board level because you're talking about the multiple factors of business continuity. You're talking about reputational damage in the event that you do get hacked or breached, for example. There's also very significant fines that are being applied through the GDPR policies, which is the European policy, which can really have a profitability impact on your business as you start to take huge costs in as part of the fines. There's also a large amount of cyber insurance that you now need to carry for all of these activities. So it can no longer be just, I need to have my governance, risk and compliance covered. I now need to protect the business continuity of my business. For example, if you have we did have an example where we had a client, wasn't a client of ours, but then became a client of ours, where they were breached and they were relatively small in size and they had multiple facilities and sites. So 600 sites were infected. They didn't have the ability to do transactions or trade. They had a few days to be able to get that restored. We had to go in and provide a response team to cleanse all of their computer networks, back up recovery, restore their environment using our SOC forensics to bring them back to health, put it that way. But if we hadn't been able to do that and resolve that in a short period of time, their business could have severely lost customers from a reputational point of view and revenue that they were planning on achieving. So,
could you give us the main episodes of a security life cycle?
Lockheed Martin coined the term the cyber kill chain. It's a flow of how an attack can occur. It starts with a reconnaissance, looking at the weak spots, for example. Then it goes into a delivery of some sort of mechanism to create a concern. Then it will go into an installation. Then it will go into a deployment, which then can be weaponized. And how that's then translated into security events or incidents is that we look at an event, and then there's an adverse event, so something suspicious is going on, and then there's a security incident. Something has taken control of some sort of administrative rights, making some changes which shouldn't be happening. And then there's a privacy incident, where maybe something has been taken or information has been taken out. And then there is a data breach, and that's really what then correlates to that cyber kill chain of being weaponized or extraction from a client or an organization's environment.
Could you give us a case study of how this actually works in practice?
So in practice, an organisation is protecting their environment and constantly monitoring it. Whether they're doing that themselves or whether they're having NTT provide their managed security services for them, or sometimes a hybrid in between, which we call ASOC or SOC as a service, where there's a combination of our skills with the customer's skills, providing all of the threat protection and management services. What happens is that they may start to see some adverse events coming into the security control domains. That may then lead to some alerts, and that may then mean that somebody has to go and do something and make some changes within the configuration. What we would typically do is we look for the suspicious allowed events. That's the sort of complementary threat detection service we provide over a client. A lot of the security control domains that we partner with, 57 of them around the world, are all very specialist within their domain areas and domain controls. There's the ones that in between those gaps, the suspicious allowed events, the sort of needle in the haystack as people refer to it as. We identify those and we provide that alert to a company, or if we're asked to, we can provide the remediation and isolation and containment services, like what they refer to as an MDR service within the industry. And we can make those changes on their behalf to protect them at all times, making the changes. But it comes through a communication method. So it comes through to alerts to a client's environment. And through those alerts, they make configuration and changes, or we make the configurations and changes through maybe our threat detection and an MDR service, they call it, so managed detect and respond services.
We've talked a lot again about this particular subject, so can you give us a recap of this session?
This session we talked about the solution and really how we provide a combined solution with technology partners that build specific security domains that provide the security protections in their area of expertise, combined with the services capability of NTT, combined with the harmony of the services the clients got on their own premise in terms of the skills. And we provide that in an overall holistic solution of looking at business process, looking at the network, looking at the infrastructure, the data, the people, and combine it in a secure by design solution for our client.
And what can we look forward to in the final session?
In the final session, we're going to talk about the human factor within cybersecurity.